Hi there, and welcome to the latest episode of our podcast, Play, Learn, Lead ECE Voices of NL. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Sonia. And this month we're going to talk about consistency in practice with our guest, Charlotte.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Charlotte, as mentioned. I am a level 4 ECE here in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and I currently teach post-secondary ECE at an institution in the province.
So happy to have you joining us, Charlotte.
Yay.
Thank you so much for agreeing to
Thanks
join
for
us.
having me.
Um, this is a topic that's very dear to my heart. I love providing consistency and routine.
Yeah, it's an important thing that a lot of children and adults really, really need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that I need in
Mhm.
my own life. And not to deflect on everyone else, but I do see there's value for everybody. It's differing levels of need for consistency and routine, but it doesn't ever tend to hurt.
No, and I think something really important when we look at a routine, whether it be, our own at home or the one that we have in our childcare, is that yes, we have this routine, but that's just the bones. We
Yeah.
need to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that we can allow for flexibility,
Yep.
whether it be for
Yes.
ourselves or the children. Um, if you are coming inside from small group and the children see some worms and that's super interesting for them,
Mhm.
well, then you just switched your schedule for that day.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're looking at that. You've now changed your small group. You're not going to rush them past and kind of, miss that opportunity. So I thrive on routine, but it's taken me a long time to kind of accept that flexible part.
Absolutely, because if we're not teaching the children that flexibility, that it's okay to veer away from the plan as
Hmm.
long as what needs to get done eventually does get done,
Yep.
then it's going to be hard for them to learn resilience when
Oh,
things in their lives change.
yeah, and things change so much for
Yeah.
children. If we look at things like COVID and the kind of spiral that sent me into going from working 40, 45 hours a week to okay, you have to stay home. And so, we're in this panic and that's going to the children. They're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're not doing the same thing we do every day. Mom, dad, nan, pop are kind of upset. Why?
Mhm.
And they feed off that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the importance too when we look at the consistency and the routine and then bringing in the idea of flexibility with the consistency and routine, they have predictability.
right.
But then the importance, if we are going to go with that flexibility, making sure they have that little warning something's going to change and
Yeah,
being
yes.
supportive through that.
But there is the difference between routine and the predictability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they know that once you come in from outside, you do a group time and then lunch.
Hmm.
Whereas okay, it's 11:30. We have to do this at this moment.
Hmm.
And, I think that is really important to kind of highlight that difference for everybody.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
scheduled times can definitely be a bit more
Mhm.
flexible.
But like the sequence of things is what's
Yes.
is
Yeah.
what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but we all it also builds trust
Mhm.
when the children have that predictability.
Yeah, and a lot of the times you have children, you don't know what their home lives are. You don't know,
Hmm.
are their home lives not predictable? Do they really thrive coming into an environment that is that scheduled predictability? I know that I'm safe here. I know that I, have a chance to play. I have a chance to have meals. Um, and regardless of what their home life is, they know that when they come to daycare, they come to childcare, they can relax.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of is a little bit of a segue from the idea of the routine and the expectations going into having that feeling of safety and relaxation and having the consistency and expectations,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and knowing what the reactions of their caregivers are going to be, how
Yes.
they're going to be met when something doesn't go
Yeah.
exactly as planned or as expected.
You spill a glass of milk. You know, they may get really upset that they spilled a glass of milk
Yeah.
because at home or anywhere outside of, where you are, they might be, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. You made such a mess. Whereas, and with us, it should be, it's fine. You, we made a mess.
Hmm.
We will get some paper towels and clean it up. And
Yeah.
I've seen in that sort of situation, like the physical relief on a child's
Hmm.
face
Yeah.
just from our demeanor, how we can't, we don't lash out. Um, and one thing I will say is we are human. We may kind of have that moment where we kind of like just maybe be too snippy. I've done it.
Hmm.
I tell a story where, if you don't mind, I'll just tell quickly. Um,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Love
I
stories.
was I was administrator, and it was a day. It was one of those days where like half the staff was sick. The children were just like they knew it, so they
Yeah.
were
Yeah,
just
they can feel
no,
it.
we're gonna. And I ended up going outside with a group, and when I get there, there's staff bickering. There's somebody fell, and this little girl comes up to me. She says, "Miss Charlotte, so and so won't play with me," and I'm like, no, I cannot deal with this right now. And I was like, can you just go, just go find something else to do? And about 5 minutes later, it kind of set in what I had said to her and how
Yeah.
I had reacted. And I went and I found her and I sat her down and I said, I'm really sorry about how I spoke with you. I was feeling very frustrated, but I still shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I am very sorry. And she
Yeah.
was like, okay, and went on. But the important thing is that I think that sometimes we need to realize that we need to apologize to children if we
Yes.
if we
Yeah.
get
I
snappy because A, we're modeling it, and B, like we again are people. We have bad days. We have those times where we are not, the perfect educator.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's something that I have always been really big on is when, I just, accidentally snap, that I go and apologize because no, I shouldn't have snapped, but I feel like that just demonstrates that they can still pre- my reactions for the most part are still very predictable. They can
Mhm.
still trust that, I'm going to be consistent. I just had a moment and I'm just telling them that I had a moment.
Yep.
And even um there was one a couple weeks ago where I said I was really frustrated with another friend, and this when you did that, like I was just so up here frustrated with somebody else that I accidentally put it on you, and like that's not okay.
Hmm.
I shouldn't have gotten upset with you because what happened wasn't a big deal. It was a total accident. It should have been totally fine, and I'm really sorry
Yeah.
that I
But
got
yeah,
after
and
you
I
for
think
that.
that, that kind of brings, like you said, them back to being okay. This was a one-off.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
apologized. They said their story. And again, they probably don't care that you ever did, but it continues to keep that trust.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of, like, a very good feeling about the ECEs in our province when you bring that up. And in our very first episode, I brought up a similar scenario
Okay.
when we were talking about well being and belonging.
Hmm.
And I had had a similar reaction and I apologized. And I believe there were at least one other, if not two other guests throughout the year
Hmm.
that had brought up other similar scenarios. And it
Yeah.
just gives me this really great feeling knowing that there's more of us out there who do
Yeah.
recognize that importance of acknowledging our mistakes and honoring the child's
Mhm.
feelings and recognizing, it's okay to make mistakes,
Mhm.
but if I don't apologize to that child, who's to say they're not going to hold on to that
Yeah.
Yeah.
and think this could be the new pattern for
Mhm.
Sonia's
Yeah.
reactions and
Yeah.
have that feeling of maybe fear,
Yeah.
Yeah.
depending on how severe our reaction
Mhm.
was or
Yeah.
how different it was, inconsistent it was from us.
I,
And
I actually told a story to a colleague today about a time I walked into a toddler room and I saw a child about to bite, and I, I bawled out. I was like, no! And everybody was like, why are you yelling? And I was like, they almost bit the other child. We didn't want that. But that was just a kind of that reaction. And it's always funny when
yeah,
you hear that person kind of do that.
um, but thinking too, not just our reactions to the children and how we need to show consistency and modeling in that, but also the importance of consistency with our relationships with our coworkers.
Yeah,
Yes.
100%. And one thing that I hear from students doing field placements, from people I used to work with on social media, is issues with coworkers or
Yeah.
issues with the overall environment. It's
Yeah.
toxic, it's negative, and some of that you can attribute to the absolute burnout of every ECE in the province, the
Mm-hmm.
exhaustion.
Yeah.
And again, that makes us, usually more snappier, more short with other people. But it's probably just accumulated in some places so much that it's hard to kind of come down from that. Um, but it's real. I just truly believe it's so important to find that person that you work to work with, that you can, if you do not click, that you find a way to work together, and that takes extra work.
Yeah.
Whether it be to sit down and say, well, let's do a schedule of who's doing large group, small group lunch, because that sometimes is just the simplest things is, oh, well, they just sat down all day and I had to do everything. And you're
Right.
building that resentment. So you
Yeah.
need to sit down and figure it out. I have had the pleasure of walking into a classroom and immediately clicking with an ECE.
Hmm.
Like, and we worked together for about 2 years, and we were like the dream classroom because everything, we just meshed together so well. I've also worked with people that I had to work on the relationship just to work, just to get through the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that they don't want to work with you. Well, that's a whole different story. And sometimes it's that, you kind of get to that point where you're like, well, if she's not doing it, I'm not doing it. And then
Mhm.
that it goes off to the children.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not us who are going to suffer if we're laying back. It's the children.
Yeah. It is, and then it's circular. So
It's going to
we're
snowball because then
it
we're
is
going to be
like we're
stressed even
cranky,
more.
the children are bored, we're not doing
Yeah.
stuff, then the behaviors come, and it just snowballs, like you said, and it's really hard to stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it's, oh, we'll just switch the staff around, or this child is aging out soon, and then things will get better. But that's just the surface level. You're not looking at the root of the problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in previous episodes, we've talked so much about temperament and goodness of fit, and
Mm.
not just with the children and us, but
Mhm.
with coworkers. Um, but one thing that's really sticking out to me, 2 months ago, we did the episode on social contribution, and our guest mentioned the two most important things that we can teach the children is respect and kindness. We
Mhm.
don't have to like everything about everybody,
No.
but it's so important to respect and be kind to everybody.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of the books that I have is called "It's Okay Not to Share"
Right.
by Heather Schumacher. And one of the chapter titles is "We're Not All Friends." And when
Mhm.
I hear people say, "Oh, be nice to your friend, be nice to your friend," I might call all the children my friends.
Mhm.
I do the same
But
thing.
Yeah.
yeah, but a parent comes in and says, "Oh, I heard that one of their friends was really not nice to them." Well, they don't get along. They're not friends.
Yeah.
You For me, I think it's important to teach children you don't have to like somebody. You do have to be kind to them. You cannot be mean to them. You have to, because respect is a big. And I
Yeah.
think that that is one of the things that we've really kind of uh, gone in a wrong direction worldwide, is that, well, I don't like you, so I don't have to be kind to you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's not that we're even fully saying that. It's just
No,
our
we're
mindset.
demonstrating it.
Yeah.
And children pick up, the attitudes between parents and children, parents and educators, educator to coworker, whatever it is. They see that. They see you roll your eyes. They
Mhm.
see you kind of like huff over to the corner and whatnot. And again, and I don't care. I will tell you stories of things that I have done wrong in my career. I don't
Yep.
mind. I have
Right.
done this.
Yeah.
I have had confrontational conversations in front of children, and afterwards being like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, and kind of did my best to correct it at the time. But they see this and they're like, oh, Miss and Miss are fighting again, like,
Yeah.
and so I'm not going to be very nice to so and so today because I saw them fighting, so why can't I get mad at somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a couple times where I've been like kind of drawn into a confrontation
Hmm.
because like children have better ears than we think they do. They just pretend they can't hear us.
Hmm.
And so whenever I've been involved in like a little confrontation with my partners in a capacity, I also always try to very vocally fix the issue with the
Hmm.
partner in the room.
Yeah.
Modeling.
Yeah,
Modeling.
because
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm sorry I got so frustrated about
XYZ, ABC,
XYZ.
all of the things.
You know, I'm having a really tough day. Usually this wouldn't bother me, but just it's today it did, and it shouldn't have, and I'm sorry.
And the thing is that at the end of the day, we might know a coworker all the pieces at work, but we might not know what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I do. I have talked to centers about that person that's always late, and you probably are like, oh my god, they're not here yet. Da da da. Like, you don't know what is happening to them at home. Maybe they just need you, and then now they're coming in and they're all like, oh my god, they're mad at me again for being late. But they don't know that I got this, this, and this going on, and they don't want to talk to you about it because you're being off-putting to them, and they may never want to talk to you about it because it's personal, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what's going on in someone else's life
Yeah.
Yeah.
behind the
Absolutely.
scenes. You really don't.
I think the little story that Taylor just told,
Hmm.
the thing that really sticks out to me on that is the fact that she modeled that repair of the relationship and
Hmm.
the respect
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
children, but it was genuine, right?
Yeah.
And the children pick up on that. If we don't do those repairs, if we don't fix our controversies, they're going to pick up on that and they're going to recognize, okay, I really like Taylor, but she really doesn't respect Sonia.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to respect Sonia.
Yeah.
And then what happens to the whole room one day when Taylor is off and Sonia is left the main consistent
Chaos.
staff? It's a really hard day.
It's a very hard day. And, that kind of goes back to the temperaments
Yeah.
be, between children and adults, there are children that want nothing to do with me, and I knew that
Yeah.
because I was this temperament and they were not dealing with,
Yeah.
and vice versa. But then when we come to the coworkers, we kind of need to have that balance between you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of, in extremes, you kind of need that quiet person to kind of get down to the
Mm-hmm.
children's level. But then you need that happy, outgoing, like,
Mm-hmm.
right? And children are drawn to different things at different times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, yes, we have pretty much the same temperament most of the time, but our needs change.
Sometimes we need that educator to just kind of sit with us and be quiet.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need that educator to kind of
Distract
make
us.
us laugh and distract us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And
And
how,
I need those two different
yeah.
things at different times in my life,
And
and I'm
that's
an
our job, is
adult.
to figure out when they need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really hard.
It is. It really is. But also, depending on the child's developmental level,
Hmm.
if we know those two extremes of what they could need, we can offer those suggestions,
Hmm.
right? And then they're knowing, okay, they understand me. They know sometimes I need this, they know sometimes I need this.
And there we go back to that trust, that building
Yep.
trust.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, again, snowball, good or bad snowballs. they're always kind of happening.
Yeah.
Trust is so foundational in our
It
field.
is so important,
Yeah.
and because it even goes to the parents leaving their children with you.
Yes.
Um, Lisa, I did a my when I first decided I was going to do ECE. Um, they had Lisa Murphy or the Ooey Gooey Lady
Mm-hmm.
from St. John's, like this is years ago.
Oh.
And I went and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. But one of the stories she told is that she's, after saying to parents, all right, you want to register your child? Give me your car keys. And they're like, what? Well, you're leaving me with your child. Do you trust me to drive your car? And they were like, no, you're not giving my car. Well, why are you leaving your child with me?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's, well, I don't know how you drive. You're supposed to be a good educator. But, I kind of understand what you
Right.
understand what
Yeah.
you're making. You are trusting your child with a virtual stranger
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and other strangers, and you're gone. You don't know what happens during the day.
Yeah.
And children can lie,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
And you hear about stuff that happens at home that does not, and I'm sure they hear about things that happens at daycare or childcare that may not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like we've definitely had children where we've very I shouldn't say we. I have had a couple children where very early on we were like, no one is ever to be alone with this child in any capacity ever.
Hmm.
Because if you walk by them and you grade them, you punched me.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I touched your shirt. I didn't even like touch your
Yeah.
body. I touched your shirt. It's
Yeah.
like, okay.
It's and some of it is just testing. Some of it's
Yeah.
very
Or
normal. I had
like,
a toddler, walk into a classroom, turn around to go back to her mom, and she said the teacher hit her, and like she wasn't in there long enough to do anything,
Right.
right?
and the teacher was at the other side of the room, like it just wasn't
Mm-hmm.
wasn't possible. And she was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, but it's you still have to build that trust, especially when you have children that have, you know, may have like a developmental issue or physical um, issues with their physical development and need that extra support.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I've had children who have gotten hurt and the parents have not dealt with it well. And, you really got to be able to say, this is what happened. This is what I did. Basically, you need to trust what I'm telling you. There was nothing malicious going on. And
Yeah.
that can be really hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, we've mentioned role modeling a couple times, and you
Hmm.
mentioned students in
Hmm.
their mentorship eh, um, placements. I want to kind of go towards role modeling and the importance
Sure.
of it, but not only role modeling for the children,
Hmm.
but also role modeling for families and other caregivers of the children that we care for and our colleagues.
Yep. Yep.
How can we shift into a mindset of being examples to others?
So, one of the things is I think you just need to kind of go back and find your why.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing, why is this what I've chosen to do?
Right.
Because some people really just kind of get thrown into it and they're like, I'm here, I'm just going to muck by for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
Other people are like, I'm here because I'm passionate and I want to do it. And then it's harder for them, I think, because, they have these expectations and they go in and it's like, okay, they're not there. But and I hope all of this ties together. I had a student one time who was kind of thrown into a program, and she's like, "I think I really like this, but I don't have anybody to. I have no one to learn from because it was a very
Right.
small program, and it was a school age program." And I was like, and I could sit with her for hours and tell her, you know, bring this in, try this, and she just, whether I don't wasn't explaining it in a way that she could understand. So one day I went and I got a bunch of stuff and I showed up in the middle of the day and I sat with the children for like an hour. And as soon as I started interacting with them, she was like, that makes so much sense. I see it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you can have these conversations, but they just don't land with people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to, actually do it for people to
Mm-hmm.
have that light bulb moment. I love giving light bulb moments. I've only given a few in my career so far, but honestly, when somebody gets it, it's such a good
Yeah.
feeling. I just
It
had goosebumps
really
thinking of that
is.
story. So, um, and then when we go back to that person that you're working with, they may not have those same values or as you in as an educator or in the classroom. And but once you figure out that dynamic and how to work in the classroom, then maybe you start modeling these different things that work, and they might see, oh hey, that just made that group time a whole lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to plan something to death and get them to sit down and force them to do this thing that I've seen people do, and she just sat down and she did something very simple and the children loved it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like once you get comfortable with that person, you can model things for each other. Everybody has different strengths, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And learning those strengths and how to rely on each other.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I've been in classrooms where it's like, all right, there's three of us in here. Every day we're going to plan. You're going to do a large group Monday. I'll do it Tuesday. You do it Wednesday. I worked with another person. It's like you do this week. I'll do this week. And it's just, and then if I say, you know what, I'm really struggling with large groups this week, I can't, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, okay, I got you, right?
Yeah.
Because relationship generally takes so much work,
Yep.
and unfortunately, some people just are like, no, I, can't, I don't want to do the work, and they make it
Yeah.
harder on themselves. So again,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
there's our snowball.
Yeah. I think being the best you can be.
So I am all for find your strength, but
Yeah.
what really hurts me is when I go somewhere, whether it be as an educator, I can go into as an instructor into a center and I have staff ask me questions. Oh, hey, do you mind if I pick your brain about something? Love it. But then I go to a place and they're like, no, we don't need help. I know
Mm-hmm.
this. I've been in the field. I don't care how long you have been in the field, you can learn something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Between just new research and things being done, throughout the years versus or you not having your strength like and learning how to do things better in some way. I will never, I hope I will never say I'm really good at curriculum, so I'm just going to do that. I don't want to learn about anything else. I can't imagine that. I
Mm.
can't.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're an educator. You should continue your own education.
Well, yeah, because things are changing so quickly.
And there's so much research,
Like,
and
yeah.
I've seen like some I don't know, for news things saying like the COVID kids are going to kindergarten, and I'm just like, okay, so that's going to be we're not going to know the effects of something like that till years later. Are you going to ignore that when they actually can say, so here's some research, here's how you can deal with children who may have had minimal social development? It might not be
Mhm.
because of a pandemic, but it's still research that happened naturally because we can't do research on children. We have to evaluate what happens as it comes and then say, okay, this is what we found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's valid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the most incredible parts of this journey that Taylor and I have been on with this podcast is that we're focusing on like 12 different topics, but within each topic, there's other topics,
Mm-hmm.
subtopics.
Mm-hmm.
But within all those episodes coming together, there's a lot of repetition because there's so much connection between everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, talking to, I work from home, but when I get to talk to my colleagues in person, you cannot just say, like, oh, hey, I'm going to just pop in and say hi. That's an hour-long conversation with somebody that I might not, like the other day, I had a conversation with somebody I may have had 3 words with in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get out of her office because once you start talking and you realize that you found somebody who gets it and who values what you value, you get really excited and like like I'm nerding out right now. Like I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah. And
I
it's
fangirled
cool.
during one episode.
What's
Yes.
that? Did you?
I fangirled during one episode.
Uh,
Can't remember which one, but I did.
yeah, yeah. And you have
Communication.
these, and actually the conversation I had was with one of your episode guests. And I was like, we just couldn't stop talking about stuff, and it was like 15 different topics, but it was just, you're so excited to talk about development and
Hmm.
you know stuff that other people are just like, all right.
Yeah, it's wonderful when you find those things that you can be passionate about.
Yeah, and finding those people, they don't have to work with you. You can find them through different like PLCs, different uh, groups and things like that. But once you find them, it's really like that. If that relationship is so important, like I have a what I call a critical friend who I can reach out to and be like, "Hey, I want to do this assignment, or I had this issue, or whatever it is. Let's talk about it." And we talk about it, and then 3 hours later, we've solved the problem. But we're talking about an article that came out, and did I read this, and did I see that? And it's just like, anyway, I just spent half of my workday speaking to you about something that should have taken about 10 minutes, and then a half hour later, she'll call me, "Hey, I want to run something by you." Right? But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
finding those like-minded people. It's hard, but it's so important.
And
Yes.
how much we learn from each other without even trying to learn,
Hmm. I
right?
When I started teaching, I was like, I didn't know these people were out there in this province. Like I didn't. I you know, I've been in centers that you're tired and you're exhausted, and then I switched to teaching, and it was just like these people are so passionate about it. They're
Yeah.
not they're excited to talk about all of these things that you might want to talk about in childcare, but you don't get that chance while you're working
Yeah.
frontline.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about this, I'm thinking about when we find our passion and something that we're interested in and like-minded individuals that
Hmm.
we can get along with and we can have great conversations with. How much is that like when children are offered something they're interested and passionate and excited about and
100.
have like minded friends that they learn from without trying to learn?
Hmm. And I think that a lot of the times we cannot make the parallels between things that we do versus things that the children do.
But there's so
Like,
much.
there is so much, we don't want to treat them like tiny adults because they're not. But um, as an example, I'm doing this post secondary teaching certificate.
Hmm.
And so much of the things that we do had to talk to students. And I'm like, this is just like, a beefed up way of how I deal with children,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? Like how you develop those positive relationships, how you mediate conflict. All
Yeah.
of these things are, related is how you want the children to learn and continue into their adulthood.
Hmm. Yeah. We're
And
preparing them to be contributing members of society.
And one thing that you just mentioned, that I wanted to talk on about when you find like-minded individuals and you have that great conversation. I think conflict is so important too.
Hmm.
Positive
Mm-hmm.
conflict, in a way that might not be the right term, but not allowing children to learn how to resolve conflict is, I think, one of the biggest disservices we can do to them,
Hmm.
because they're growing up and they're like, well, when I was little, the teacher always took the toy from the other child and gave it to me because I had it first, or
Yeah.
whatever the case is. They're not taught how to resolve conflicts.
Yeah.
And I'm getting better, but I do get really hot headed when someone has a different, especially about something that I'm really passionate about, and they have a different opinion than me. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. No, they're not wrong. It's a different opinion. And I'll have that
Yeah.
conversation. And it's really, really hard. But it was not, I think that we're doing that disservice to children by solving their conflicts for them. Because when they get adults, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why problem solving is so important.
Hmm.
And I know that, like, when I did the diploma program, I can still remember that in first field placement, we were to observe our mentors
Hmm.
using the problem solving technique. And I was like 2 weeks in, and I went to my mentor and I said, I'm supposed to observe you using problem solving, but I haven't seen it happen. And their explanation was that the children are too young. They don't have the language. They just can't do it.
Hmm.
I was in a toddler room.
Yep.
So a lot of people are going to have those thoughts. But the thing is, we guide them through it. We may need to give them the words,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to honor them and respect them and realize they are capable with the support.
Hmm.
We learn about scaffolding,
Right.
bringing them level to level to level. How are they going to get to the next level if we don't start
Hmm.
at
Yeah.
the
That
foundation?
goes, yeah, and that goes back to solving it for them, right?
Yeah.
Yes, when they're younger, you are going to have to be very, very direct. Oh, they were
Hmm.
using that first, so we need to give it back to them. But using those words, and we're scaffolding on that.
Yeah.
And when I see students or ECEs talking to preschoolers, and it's like, oh, who had it first? Okay, we'll give it back to them.
Yeah.
And I'm using sharing as an example because that's just something that's so common. And I don't share. Uh,
No.
sharing is not caring.
Yeah.
I can talk about that for an hour. But I was like, well, she was like, well, the student would be like, oh, well, I helped them problem solve. I asked you how to first. I was like, no, you asked you how to first, and then you told them what to do,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? You didn't help them problem solve.
Yeah. They didn't quite understand
And
the
when,
different
yeah,
solutions that could be possibilities.
and when I have students, and the same thing comes with like curriculum, when I have students go into a center and, they might be struggling with doing the conflict resolution or the problem solving because the children are like, what? We have to do this ourselves,
Hmm.
right? What? We have these choices? Like, I don't understand what to do. So that again is kind of like, all right, we got to back this up, even though they're 4 years old. We kind of got to take that back to a lower competency.
So I'm going to kind of pretend I'm not a student, but
Okay,
I'm a new ECE in the field.
sure.
My partner solves all the problems for the children. but that's not how I want to practice. And just how different when the expectations are different within the room.
Hmm.
How are some ways that we can come together,
Yeah.
come to compromises,
Yeah. And
and agree on the same expectations for the children to give them that consistency?
yeah,
Because
no,
they're going to favor one ECE over the other,
they're
typically
going
the
to
one
favor
that
the one
makes them
that
do the
favors
least amount
them.
of work,
Yep. Yep.
right?
No. And again, it goes back to developing that relationship. One thing that I've done a lot of professional learning about over the past year or so is core values.
Okay.
So, and there's so many, and you can make up your own, but it's what you find valuable, what's important to you in your life.
Right.
So, and really, if you list your core values at 20, 30, 40, and 50, you should see some sort of like they will be kind of similar. So some people may say family is their core value, right? Some
Mhm.
people may say that education is a core value. So when you get people who just have these values that are just so opposing,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
it's you really got to kind of figure out how to work. There is no solution that I can give a student. It is you have to put the work in with that other person. They have
Mhm.
to be willing to put the work in with you.
Yeah.
Having that initial conversation, hey, I see that you do it this way. I've read, maybe they're open. Maybe this is how they were taught and they are just kind of stuck in a rut. Sometimes you get stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
When I left my last place I worked directly with children, I left because I was mentally in a bad place. And probably like a year later, I was just thinking about something one day and I was like, I was not a good ECE going in there. Like I lost who I was as an ECE in that job because
Right.
it was
Yeah.
kind of like, it was fight or flight type thing. Like I was
Mhm.
just trying to get through the day. It was so hard and so negative.
Yeah.
Um, and when I look back, I'm like, I didn't like who I was. So maybe the person that you're talking to might just, this is what they've done. They are stuck. Maybe they just need someone to have that conversation with them.
Just in
Hey, I
survival mode, going through the motions.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And we have these things that we need to do in order to survive. And I think that with the amount of burnout that is happening with ECEs, that a lot of them are just trying to survive, get through the
Yeah.
day, right?
Yeah.
So you
Mm-hmm.
see people on social media, I can't do this anymore. I hate my job. I hate this. I love the children. I love, I used to love what I do, but I
Mhm.
can't do it anymore. And that to me is devastating
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
we need those people that truly do love what they do.
Yeah. It is really really hard to keep that flame ignited sometimes in
But
our field.
oh yeah, 100%. And I think that also goes back to um, learning new things.
Yeah.
Because when you get to learn new things, it kind of like when you go to a conference or something, and it's just like a common human nature thing. You leave like the conference, and you're like, yes, that was so exciting, I'm pumped up, and I can't wait to go in. And then by like Wednesday of the next week, you're like, I'm done, right? But when you learn these new things, it's like, oh wow, I can help myself, I can help the children. So it's kind of like when you sit down and you have that conversation with the person who's just kind of, solving the problems, have a conversation. So this is what I've learned. This is what I've read. Do you think maybe we can come up with a compromise? Start off with a compromise.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that you do it that way. What if we tried adding in this step? Because
Hmm.
again, if the children have never been exposed to how to problem solve, you're not going to be able to say solve the problem yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to scaffold it, give them that
Yeah.
little step forward, and then you're scaffolding it with your coworker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to be willing to do that. Everybody has to be willing to do the work.
Yeah, and I think back to our episode on self-care and how important it is to lift each other up, to fill each other's buckets,
Hmm.
right?
I spoke about uh, last ECE week of 2025. I was chair of ASML, and I did like my little spiel for everybody that went out on social media, and I talked about giving others grace,
Yeah.
because at the time that was just something that I was just reading a lot about. Because again, you don't know what's happening with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just need to be like, you know what, they are cranky today. And if I come in and say I'm not in this, I'm not in the mood. The other thing that I saw one time that I saw that was really good, it was a husband and wife, but it would work in this situation actually. At the end of the day, they would come home and she would say, I'm at 100%, I'm good to go, and he would say, I'm
Oh,
at
I know
100%.
this.
I've seen
Yeah.
that.
And another day she would come in and say, I'm at 30, and he's like, I got you, I'm at the 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were balanced. So, I'm not saying they have to do that exactly, but recognizing with your work partner
Yeah.
where they are is so important.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have to come up with a plan. What happens if you're both at 30?
Mhm.
This example of the parents were like, we're getting pizza.
Yeah.
Right? But it might be,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to let the administrator know that we're both not in a good headspace right now.
Yeah.
So maybe we might need them to pop in, if they hear maybe the classroom gets a little, uh, loud, or we might need some extra help during transitions outside and things like during the harder
Mhm.
parts of the day. And then that goes back to having that relationship with the different people in
Yeah.
your work area.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um yeah, I really think a lot of consistency in our practice
Hmm.
stems from, like you mentioned, giving each other grace and then that kindness and respect, right?
Hmm.
And empathy. It's a huge
Empathy is,
foundation in our field.
and a lot of people don't understand what empathy is. And that's there's a video by Brene Brown, and it's like a cartoon,
The
and
sympathy empathy one
yeah, the
in
sympathy
the
empathy,
pit.
yeah, in the pit.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Oh, I'm so tired. Well, at least you got somewhere to sleep. Oh, I'm so this. Well, at least you have
Yeah.
this. And like sometimes you don't want to hear that. Sometimes you just need to say, I am sad.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We don't look at a child who says, I'm sad. Well, at least you have all of these things. It's
Mhm.
it's okay to be sad. Do you want to sit down and just sit? You want to sit in my
How can
lap?
I support you through that?
Yeah, right. And again, this is something that we do with children, but we're just kind of pushing the adults to the
Yeah.
side with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we have feelings. Our feelings
Yeah.
are important,
Yes.
right?
And our relationships are so pivotal to what the children are going to experience in their future
Hmm.
relationships.
Uh,
They see and they learn
yeah.
what's
Mm-hmm.
acceptable.
Earlier, when I forgot what I wanted to say, it was about crystallizing moments. And this is something that Lisa Murphy talks about in one of her books. And it's a moment in your childhood that is just, you remember, and it really, really just kind of changes the trajectory of how you think. So for
Yeah.
her, when she was in preschool, she talks about her preschool teacher, Miss Mary, and how Miss Mary had made her favorite snack on her very first day of preschool. And when they were eating snacks, she sat down with her and said, we are so happy to have you here. And in the book, she said, and that is when I decided I wanted to teach. Right. So whether it be a
I just got
challenge,
goosebumps.
I know, I'm so, and the whole story is lovely, because it talks about like how, like, the fact that she went and she found out what her favorite snack was, and it was like it was like jalapenos and apples or something really strange that you wouldn't, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And but she's like, they made that for me.
Right.
And I think about that when I talk about, I apologize to this little girl. She
Yeah.
may never remember that, but she might remember that when she's dealing with her own child or a child in her care, in the future, and just be like, hey, sometimes I need to apologize because sometimes I'm wrong, even though it's a
Yeah.
child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, crystallizing moments.
Amazing. This has been a really good conversation. I love there's so many things like floating around my head, all
I
of
know.
the concepts that we've talked about,
Hmm.
but the predictability, the trust, the consistency, and how much that is going to show the children, especially when we make those little slip ups and we acknowledge them, that it's okay to make mistakes,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right?
100%.
Being human.
I can say I'm really angry right now, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you so much, Charlotte, for
Thank you
joining us.
so
And
much
thank
for
you
having
for
me.
all of those little scenarios and little stories. We love all the stories that we've been
Always the
hearing
best way to
through.
learn.
It is, it really is, because they stick with you,
They do,
Yeah.
yeah.
right? But yeah, it's been great, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your
Oh,
evening.
thank you.
And thank you for joining us.
Bye.
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 Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, consistency in practice is very near and dear to my heart. And that was a really good conversation. I loved it so much. Um, and one thing that Charlotte had said really resonated with me. And she had mentioned how, like, she's had moments in her career when she hasn't been the perfect educator.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had such a moment this year.
Yeah.
Um, I'm in a different situation this year where I have a morning partner and an afternoon partner. Still consistent, but two different partners
Mm-hmm.
that don't really overlap. If they do overlap, it's during my lunch break. So the three of us don't really get time together.
Okay.
And naturally, people have different personalities, different temperaments, different ways of like behavior guidance, different reactions, all that. And for the first little bit, it was fine, but then I was noticing myself, and this was on me. I was starting to compensate for the morning, the afternoon, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I recognized I was starting to get frustrated because the children were reacting differently to me. And it was all because I wasn't being consistent with my expectations,
Mm.
with my reactions, and with my behavior guidance because I was I was being different in the morning and different in the afternoon. And they didn't know what they were getting because they couldn't tell, okay, this is morning Sonia, this is afternoon Sonia.
Yeah.
They could just tell that Sonia is not consistent.
Yeah.
I can't trust, I can't predict what I'm going to get from Sonia.
That's a
So
lot
it was
for
a lot, and
everyone.
it
For
was
everyone.
it was getting on, it was really stressing me. I was getting to the point of exhaustion, probably near burnout. I was recognizing things in myself that I did not like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to my administrator and I said, listen, I just really need this reset. I need to have the three of us need to come together and just be able to talk about the expectations and come to compromises and recognize how we all can work together,
Mm-hmm.
which was hard because the two of them didn't really work together
Yeah.
physically, but really they do because they're still the children's educators and the children's people.
Yeah.
So ever since that, and one thing that I thought about during the episode was that as much as we may have implied how important communication is, we didn't outright say how
Yeah.
important communication is. And honestly, since that meeting, everything it took a little bit of time for me to repair that trust
Mm-hmm.
and those the the consistency and the expectations with the children, but now we're at a place and I feel so much more at peace, and I think the children feel so much more at peace. The room, the environment, the atmosphere, it's all so much calmer, and learning is more effective, and it's
Mm-hmm.
happening so much so much better now.
Yeah.
And just how important it is to really work together. Even if
Yep.
you only have two partners, two consistent full-time partners,
Mm.
you still need to work together, get those expectations and that compromise, and be on the same page,
Page. Yeah.
right?
No, like it's like you said, it's so important. Because yeah, like you said, it not only affects your relationship with your partners, it affects the entire environment.
Yeah.
It affects, how the children interact with you and your partners. It affects how they interact with each other because they're going to interact with each other the way that it's modeled that you do.
Yeah.
So,
And then you get that snowball
and you get
that
that
we talked about
snowball.
so much.
Yeah, and like it's definitely been mentioned in other episodes, and I feel like there's quite a few themes that get mentioned in multiple episodes, which really to me just reiterates how important it is.
Yeah.
Um and like one of those like we mentioned was, how you feel personally about someone should not impact how you interact with them in your
Yeah.
playroom environment,
Yeah.
because you know you don't have to be friends with someone to show them kindness and respect.
No.
And if you don't model kindness and respect towards your partner, then children are going to pick sides.
Hmm.
And the side that they pick, they're not going to treat that other staff with kindness and respect, because why would they when their teacher doesn't? If they
Yeah.
don't have to show them kindness and respect, why do I have to show them kindness and respect?
Yeah.
Um, which then also kind of snowballs into the other um, theme that I feel pops up so frequently. I think probably the one that I've noticed gets talked about in almost every episode is the importance of admitting mistakes, like to your
Yes.
mistakes, and apologizing for your mistakes
Yeah.
in front of the children. You don't
Yeah.
have to necessarily um do the quote quote genuine apology, like the initial apology in front of the children. Like that's something that, depending on the context, might be better to do if possible kind of privately with your coworker, depending on the nature of it.
Yeah.
But ensuring that if that's what happens, you still do some kind of acknowledging in
Yeah.
front of the children,
Yeah.
because like showing that A, it's okay to make mistakes. B, how to, genuinely, I guess, apologize and work through challenges with other people.
Hmm.
And, you know, I guess in the context of like the example that Charlotte gave, and I've been guilty of like similar situations where you kind of snap at a child
Hmm.
and then like um you later reflect, you're like, oh man, like I can't believe I behaved that way, that was not okay, and you go to that child and apologize to the child for acting out
Yeah.
of um the norm.
Yeah.
And it gives that child like, okay, this isn't the new normal. Like, okay, so I can still expect you to be what you typically are. Okay.
Yeah.
Like this was a blip, and you can continue to build and keep that trust with them.
Yeah. And part of, like, the example that I had given, part of the issue was that it was building,
Yes.
right? So, but one day I recognized, I was like, you know what? So I'm a very patient and calm person by nature.
Yes, you are.
But one day in particular, I recognized, like, I have to work very hard to be patient now. Why? And
Mhm.
it was it was because behaviors were rising around me because the children didn't know what to expect from me.
Mhm.
And so when I recognized that I needed to bring things back,
Mhm.
I was very open with the children and I said, I know this is how Sonia used to act, like, calm and
Mhm.
patient. But then things changed, and I'm really sorry for that. But now we're going to go back to how Sonia used to be. And I'm really sorry that things changed and that it confused you, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, as much as I didn't do it right away, but it was because I didn't recognize that. And so
Mhm.
for them to understand that sometimes as a human, you don't recognize that things are changing and
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
right? And that's all a part of that, like, you don't always recognize that you're making mistakes because sometimes they're only tiny,
Mhm.
and then they gradually build and you don't notice it until it gets to that point.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm being very vulnerable right now because it's hard to admit that you had a moment, and potentially it might have been like a month of build up,
Yeah.
and then it took longer than a month to repair that, because once damage is done it takes a lot longer to fix it than it did to wreck it.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Yeah, but that's why it is, as much as I try to practice consistency, I can admit I'm not always perfect with consistency. But now that I've had that experience, like, I will be a lot more aware in the future.
Yeah.
And that's a part too of teaching children that we can learn from our mistakes. Mistakes teach us things about
Mhm.
ourselves and about how the world works. And that's okay. Like, it's just a learning experience, and that's what life is learning.
Absolutely. Like, it's like you said, like we're human, and we're
Yeah.
gonna make mistakes, and it's just really important to demonstrate how to handle
Yep.
when you make those mistakes.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it was a really, really good conversation. It was eye-opening. And like I said, I resonated so much with what we spoke about. Um, we are getting so close to the end of
I
the
know.
first series of 12 a year of the podcast. Um, And our final topic is going to be on inclusive practice and universal design. And I'm sure kindness and respect is going to pop up again in that episode. So excited for that conversation. Um, and yeah, thank you for being on this journey with us.
Yes, thank
Hopefully,
you.
see you again next month.
Bye.
Bye.